Hello, everyone. This is the 19th of March, and this is a short video update on the situation that we face. Um, it's supposed to be a 1 in 100 year event, but this feels like the third one that we've had in the last 5 years with post-COVID and the Russian invasion of Ukraine, where we're seeing tremendous volatility within our markets. So pricing is up daily, sometimes almost hourly. And if what I'm being told is true, we're facing increases going into April of potentially €1,000 a tonne over the February price. It's simple and it's also complex as to the reasons why we're seeing these changes, seeing such rapid movement within pricing. The simple part of it is that the market price is driven essentially by supply and demand. And at the moment, the supply is incredibly uncertain and restricted, and the demand for it because of that is very, very high. Market price, to a certain extent, can be set by the point at which people stop ordering. And at the moment, nobody's stopping because everybody's concerned about securing supply. The complex effects relates to material out of the Middle East. There are direct effects. The Middle East is a very large supply, particularly of things like HDPE and polypropylene. That's their number one and number two exports to Europe. So there's a direct effects on those. There's also slightly less direct effects with the other raw materials which come out of there, principally naphtha and other oil-derived products. And I think it's worth noting that this price increase is reflected partly because of the increase in the cost of raw materials. So looking at spot price for naphtha at the end of February, it was $576 a tonne. As of last night, it was $893, which is a 55% increase in the cost of naphtha. That's going to get passed through in terms of raw material costs for a lot of monomers and a lot of other things that make up our polymers. Now, whilst Europe, technically speaking, has got spare capacity, we've been running at very low run rates over the last few years, whilst demand's been relatively poor. It simply doesn't have the raw material in order to be able to ramp production up. We've also got two major crackers within Europe, so a Shell, a Sabic, who are taking out of capacity for the next 2 months around about 1.5 million tonnes of annual ethylene capacity and 900,000 tonnes of propylene annual capacity. That's a big hit for the next 2 months that we're going to be missing. Well, the other thing is that because of the increased cost of naphtha, the spot price of monomers are now trading at a €300 to €500 a tonne premium over the contract price, which means that, for example, ethylene is trading at 14, 15, €1,600 a tonne. So that feeds into the cost of things like polyethylene. So whilst Europe has gradually weaned itself off Middle Eastern-based naphtha over the last few years and actually imports less than it used to, that material is essentially gone to Asia, and this is in some ways a more serious issue. Asia needs around about 4 million tonnes of naphtha a month, and it gets over half of that from the Middle Eastern region, specifically the UAE, Kuwait, and Qatar. All of that has to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and that's obviously shut. Taking a specific example, you look at a country like South Korea, they get 60% of their naphtha from that region. But even if they weren't getting their naphtha, they get 80% of their oil. So in April, a lot of estimates are that Asia is going to be missing around about 1 million tonnes of ethylene. There are currently, at the time of recording this, I think 28 either shutdowns or reduced running operating rates at crackers within Asia. And there are around about 35 force majeures within Asia and the Middle East. So you've got significant reductions in production capacity to be able to make polymers. Some slightly good news is that the USA, which is not dependent on these, is self-sufficient to make a lot of products, is ramping up production and is ramping it up significantly. However, the reports that I'm reading suggest that they're going to be looking at increases in the region around about £500 to £600 a tonne for things like polyethylene next month. So whilst we have got some capacity which is going to be coming, they're going to sell it to the highest bidder, and so consequently that's going to push the prices up. Hard to say how long, how far this is going to last. Somebody said to me the other day, is this going to be as bad as COVID? And in some respects, I think it potentially could be worse. There's no sign of the conflict being resolved quickly. The supply chain disruption will last for many months beyond even a ceasefire being agreed. So I would say at the moment you need to be very, very careful about making sure that you secure the supplies that you can. Keep talking to us. We are a stockist. We will do everything that we can to make sure that we keep you supplied. But it's going to be very, very tough. So please talk to us and we will do our best to update you as the situation evolves.